Hey guys, Broken Stoic here. Just want to step in before we start this thing off and say that I really do appreciate Kata and Aporia taking the time to jump up in on stream and answer all your guys' questions. This is going to be a new thing that we do uh, probably every week, either on my stream or, Void and I have discussed alternating, one week on his stream, the next week on my stream. And so I did want to say, hey, listen, Aporia, Kata, these guys are super busy. These guys are doing, they're spinning 100 plates at once, at least, and trying to manage the insane growth that this server has had and trying to create the absolute best gaming experience that you guys can have. And so for them to be able to carve out an hour, in the case of this, it was actually over almost 3 hours long before editing. And it's just amazing. It's great that they want to spend time and that they want to give you guys, the viewers, and you guys, the players, time to ask them these questions and connect with you. Here. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that you'd like, please put them down there in the comments, and it's much appreciated. Like that button, hit that subscribe, and it's all win-win. Without further ado.
Yeah, you're good. We're out of ads, and Aporia is here, folks. The Aporia is here.
Hello. Guten Tag.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so yeah, before we start answering questions, etc., so when we do these, right, and I answer questions and I powwow, I'm gonna try to give like a little, hey, this is what I'm pretty sure of, and if it's important, I can follow up on it. Because in the spirit of full disclosure, while I know a lot, there are things that I am still learning every single day. So just remember, this is all built on 20 years worth of everyone's code. And while we've done a lot, I don't know everything.
Well, yeah, right. And in addition to that, even the stuff that you might know, like you may, like you have 100 different plates you're spinning, right? So like it might be something obscure or something weird that maybe you just didn't remember that in the moment, or it could be like something that we can correct later. Like it's not that there's no misleading. It's not like you're intentionally deceiving people.
Right. Well, there's an equal chance that I knew something and then Kata changed it while we were talking. So there's that too.
I've been there. I know what that's about.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, thanks for having me on.
No,
do you want to tell them kind of what we're trying to do?
Well, so yeah, I mean, I can do it. You can do it either way. But basically, I've been kind of selling this to people most of the day and just kind of saying, hey, listen, we had this talk the other day about, some people not feeling really comfortable coming forward, and that, you want to show people that you sort of have this open door policy, which is like, if you're having an issue, you want to know about it, and we can't fix it if you're not telling us that it's a problem. And if anybody's feeling uncomfortable, it's like there's not a feeling of like, hey, stay away, don't message me. Like, you have done everything and anything. I mean, you guys are, to have a dev this open and this available to talk to people is absolutely mind-blowing. You guys have all played online MMOs, and I'm sure like, you never get to talk to a dev about anything. So Aporia basically wants to come out, talk to you guys about what, answer your questions, talk to you about what's going on with the server, sort of alleviate that tension or that thought that maybe they're not available or they're not out in the open, because they absolutely are. Go ahead.
For sure. So, it's really important to me, like, since from the very beginning, one of the things that when Drake came on as community manager, one of the things that he said was, you need to not be so available to people, because what he saw is that I was getting stretched very thin. And I really appreciated where his heart and head was, but I have not, since day one, turned off my DMs. They've always been open. The only people who can't DM me is people who literally just join the server, and that's just because bots, spam protection, etc. But yeah, in all of this, right? So in the last 3 to 4 months, we've gone from having only a few people that help to like 40 people that help, right? And so there are technically layers of insulation from a player submitting a bug report and me, but there's no layer of insulation between someone reaching out and going, "Hey, man, this is great. What do you think about this?" And like, I can't respond to everyone immediately, but I am very proud to say that there is not a single message that I have not responded to since this server started.
That's absolutely nuts. Put that in perspective, people. This server, first of all, it went live November 1st, but before that there was a beta process and an alpha process. And then in addition to that, that November was 5 months ago.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's a lot, but it's good, right? Like, and so here's the thing, and this is, and again, full transparency. The reason that I do it is because the relationships that are built are what matter the most. And I absolutely love, like, there's so many times, like, I'll get a message and it'll be like, "Hey man, I'm stuck here. Can you help with this and that?" And I just scroll up in the message history and it's like, man, this guy's been around for 2.5 months. And like, he did X, Y, and Z and this and that. Like, I love having a chat history with just like random people, right? Like everyone. Like, I just think it's so cool. It makes me feel like I'm a part of the game, right? And that's cool. That's fun for me.
Someone said in my chat today, they said, "Wait, is Aporia the one that literally waves to every single person that joins the server?"
I catch so much shit for that. But yeah, I am. And it's great because when I do that, how many times people have been like, they don't really know who I am. They don't know what the colors mean. Like, they just joined, right? And they're like, "Hey, what do I do for this? And what is this?" Like, I have my own little copy paste section, right? It's fun.
It's hilarious. It looks like the chat is rolling right into a lot of questions. I'll leave that up to you if you want to. We can do that now, or we can, if you want to talk more about sort of what you're trying to do right now. I am copy and pasting these questions into a Word doc just so we have them for later if needed.
Sure. So this is what I'll do. So I have a couple things that I want to talk about, including like, pop being pushed back and just some things that we have on the back burner and why we're going to be pacing things the way that we are. So I'll use that as filler if we're waiting for questions. So I'll just kind of go through the top and kind of see what's what. All right. So the first one, wow. My issue is with Ranger AA Lightning Strikes and War Berserker Flurry. The AA says gives you roughly 20% chance of performing 2 additional attacks with your primary hand, and that isn't true. Well, no, it is true. But okay, I wrote a ticket about this and was told how it actually works around triple attack. Rapid Strikes for Monks does mention triple attack. Can we either change the description or allow these skills to perform flurry attacks like pets? Okay. So I'm glad a question like this was asked, because I think to assume that you're going to read a description and understand the inner workings of this game is that's too much for even me to assume, right? Like, it does actually give you a 28% chance of performing 2 additional attacks, but in the form of double attack, right? So like when they were first developing this stuff, okay, and they're writing descriptions based on what the user experiences, okay? It's not necessarily what you think it is, and most of the time it's not done the way you assume it is. And the crazy thing is how you think it would be or you assume it would be is directly impacted by how much EQEMU you've played before, how much live you've played before, what type of background you have. So I'll say this: if there are descriptions that you feel are misleading, if you're the one doing the research and putting in the time and asking the questions, right? I would say in that report that you opened, please follow up and say, hey, I recommend it be changed to this because of this. And that is the most likely way to impact a positive change on this game. Because think about, I haven't even looked at this post, right? And I can guarantee you've probably put hours into researching this, talking about this, people digging through old repos, and maybe, a guide or a dev chimed in and it was supposed to be like this and it's actually like this. There is no feasible way for me, the person responsible for balance, the person responsible for making sure the UX is good. I cannot do that for every AA and every ability. So what I would say is, when you learn something like that, distill it, give me something to work with, and hopefully a guide will escalate it to me and I'll get it fixed.
Can you just outline a little bit of what distilling it means and what that looks like functionally?
Sure. So I'll relate it to something that most people can remember, right? So like you're given an assignment in school, right? And they tell you to outline it. And then at some point you have to give like a conclusion, like the wrap up, the summary, right? So you've got 120 messages in a thread. I am not going to read 120 messages in that thread. Give me a TLDR. Give me a, I learned this. This is what it is. This is what should be changed, right? So like just boil it down to the simplest thing that you can do. And yeah, exactly. Instructions unclear, back to shit posting. I get a lot of that.
And I would say too, so you got to understand that these guys are modifying like years and years and years of like code and work that exists on a different, like it exists on a different plane. So it's important too, and I advise this to everybody that I tell to put in a bug: write what you think it should do. If there's a reference to that, maybe include that. So if you're like, Alakazam says this thing should do this in this way, and if there's a link or something, put it in there. And then in addition to that, make sure you're saying, okay, I read this. This is my interpretation of how this is working. This is how it's actually working. And this is how the game says it should be working. So that they don't have, because Aporia, again, Aporia going through and changing all that code or like researching all that stuff, like it is way too difficult for Aporia or Kata to go up and try to figure out, is this how it's actually supposed to function? Which way is it actually supposed to function? If I'm going to adjust the description, is it functioning like the description says because that's the way it's supposed to? Or is that as a result of something else that they may have changed? So
yeah, for sure. And not only that, but so here's the thing, right? Because I'm really trying to be honest and think through this. So even if you distill it at the end, right? Even if you give me that synopsis at the end, I'm probably still going to have to research it myself to make sure whatever conclusion is reached in that thread is correct, right? And so it's just tough. Like I've edited hundreds of these, but it really I try to take time to fix things that are egregious, right? Like something that truly just this does not work that way. But yeah, so I feel that, and it's definitely not just for that, right? There's a lot that need to be adjusted, but at the end of the day, it does indeed give you additional attacks with your primary hand. The fact that it's in the form of triple attack instead of what you assumed would be a flurry, you know, like yes, it should probably specify that, but it's just it's kind of part of EverQuest, right? Like it's the code behind all of this is spaghetti.
It's janky. Yeah.
With that being said, we'll probably move on to the next one.
Yep.
All right. I have two, been on my mind for a while. First is for Pop. I've played the hell out of this expansion, and besides backflagging, once you go through most of the content, you end up just farming time and XPing in fire. Could Quorum loot, I'm assuming loot, be distributed over the elemental gods, Zegni, Kornav, Wrath, Fenin, potentially Ralos, Zek, and Tactics, or some of the flagging bosses, as well as Burtok Cycle, etc. Okay, so two hot takes. First hot take, that's cool. I liked the random loot servers, right? Like I played TLPs, I thought that was cool. But that's not what we're doing here, right? So like I have not changed any loot tables. I have not, you know, like we want to preserve the expected experience and give other things to do as well, right? So in Planes of Power, we will definitely have at least one custom encounter that you'll end up doing in addition to Quorum, in addition to time. But we're aiming for multiple custom encounters in Planes of Power. So there should be plenty to do, and there's also going to be some potential things that would keep you going back to farming other expansions as well. We're going to do our best to give players additional things to do, but again, so at the end of the day, this whole server, right, the whole way that we have this developed is to be for the journey, right? Like I understand the want to, like, you know, some of you have made the journey. Some of you have actually been here from launch and have leveled up yourself, have gotten your AAs, have grinded your gear, have perfected your character, right? And for you, yeah, you're gonna make that journey quick, and you're gonna get to time, and you're gonna farm it, and whatever the custom content we have is probably only the stuff that you're gonna want to do. But we love when people make alts. We love that new people continue to come and join this game. And we cannot produce enough content to keep someone that is max AA, max gear, in a great build that just knows their class inside and out. Like we don't have something we can give you right now that is going to extend the runway much further than what you would expect, right? Like you've got the custom bosses that are going to be there, some custom encounters, but beyond that, it's going to be a little rough. Now, I can segue that directly into, well, then what's your plan, right? So towards the end of Planes of Power, or not even the end anymore, probably about 2 months in the Planes of Power, we hope to launch an official solo self-found mode and an official hardcore mode. And for those of you who don't know what that is, solo self-found is basically you create a new character and you opt into finding everything yourself. You have to prog yourself, you have to gear yourself, everything you have to do on your own. You can only get to where you personally can go. And that's a huge thing. And why would someone do that? Number one, the challenge. And number two, there are going to be custom rewards for doing that. And yeah, to answer the chat, yes, you can absolutely do both. So fun fact, to do hardcore, you have to be solo self-found. So hardcore by itself is solo self-found hardcore. That's exactly what that is. So because hardcore really isn't hardcore if you can go to Bazaar and put yourself in 10,000 HP worth of gear at level 1. Like, that's not very hardcore. It's a different kind of hardcore, I should say. So yeah, those are going to come out, and that will definitely extend the play loop for people who just enjoy the game, right? Who enjoy making alts and want to challenge themselves and do things differently. I feel like I just took my first breath in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, but you killed it, and you brought up some really good points, because I know there's a lot of people who've been talking about the special game modes and being thoroughly interested and huge into the challenge modes, hardcore, solo self-found. I know Coffee and I have been talking about it quite a bit. People are excited about it, so I think it's good to hear about some of that stuff.
For sure. All right, next one. I just wanted to say thanks for all the work you guys have done in the server. I've been having a ton of fun. It's been amazing so far. I read this out loud because I genuinely appreciate that. Like, people send little messages here and there all the time, sometimes directly to me, sometimes to someone else, sometimes in general, OC, whatever. Every single one of those messages, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate, because for every one of those messages, there's like 20 people that maybe just aren't having the best day, and then come back the following day and go, hey man, I'm sorry, right? So to get me through all those, hey man, I'm sorry's in the making, I really appreciate that. What visual armor pieces are Cork the Trio and or Acadius wearing? And if by chance you don't know, can you tell me what armor the Dwarf Colding Messenger for the Velius Flag and Bazaar is wearing? I know this is a very important question. So here's an interesting thing. Okay, when you see an NPC, they don't actually get dressed up like a player character. Like, they don't have armor in all those slots. It's literally predefined visuals that we get to choose from for an NPC. So if you see something on an NPC, it is either the basic cloth, the basic leather, the basic chain, or the basic plate, but in different colors. And that's all it is. So look at you. You're looking at them right now. Which ones did they ask about? They asked about
Cork. I can actually answer this one. This is a cloth cap, and this is the XR plate. What was the other one they asked about? Acadius?
Acadius. Yeah, right next to them.
Yeah, same thing. This is just green barbarian plate.
Yep. And depending on what models you have turned on, it does look a little different. So that's why it can be hard to spot sometimes. But,
speaking of models, one of the chief things I heard so many people complain about today was this.
What's that?
Do you see what happens when I am at eyesight of this the fading memory for the very first quest?
I need to give him flashier weapons, I guess.
Like, if you don't have the class, or if you have the classic stuff, he's like bright as bright gets, right? But you got that.
Yes. So maybe that's my way of telling new players they should be using classic models, because Kata made me use new models for everything.
I love it.
But no, that's so literally every NPC that I put in the game, I put in as a classic model. So when Kata put in Tim to turn everything to Luclin models, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily look the way that I intended. Oh, that's funny though.
Give him fire swords. There you go.
Yeah, right.
I do know. Well, no, I do know Aporia likes fire swords.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Who doesn't?
You're not wrong. All right. Second one for me. War Taunt abilities and items with aggro changes Feels like such a big part of the class and has less relevance on this server. Could this be addressed? Fun fact, so this has come up a number of times, and I have two very distinct feelings on this, right? So there's a lot of pieces of different classes that aren't necessarily as relevant on this server as it would be on a normal server. I feel like that's okay to an extent. However, what we ended up doing with rogue weapons, right? So we added a massive amount of backstab damage to them so that they at least compete with alternate options, right? When it comes to warrior and aggro, we've not seriously, but we've talked about what is that like? What can we do with that would make warriors a little more fun, right? So like maybe every point of aggro becomes a flat point of damage, right? Or something to that extent. That by itself would be a little OP because the reality is warrior has already been balanced without that added effect, right? So if we were to add that effect, it would immediately become like, well, shit, warrior is really good now, right? And we don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm open to it. I could see us doing something about it, but I feel warrior is in a genuinely pretty good place right now. And so it's not like top on my list.
Yeah. Make sure you remember this one because there's going to be another question here in a minute, which is going to be relating directly to this.
We can hop around if you want. Let's maybe
do that. Okay. So Eistern's question here. Any movement on the pet aggro bug, Broic? Hears me complain about it all the time and is probably sick of it. So right now, the way pet aggro is working, and it's really finicky. If you're in a group with other players and you turn your pet taunt off, somehow, some way, every point of aggro that your pet builds goes directly to the summoner, the caster, whatever. And I'm telling you, I actually experienced this last night. There was no possible way that a warrior who had all the aggro AAs, all the aggro building stuff built into his build, his entire role is to tank in a 6-man group. And he was unable to pull aggro off me because of how much threat my pets were creating because taunt wasn't on.
Hey, so let's do this. When we come up to something that I feel really does need to be addressed, let's make a little list. And I would like to put that on the list. There's a good chance that that's actually already fixed on test. And actually, this is probably a good opportunity to kind of lead into something I wanted to talk about. So just before Luclin launch, we changed the way that we roll things out. Okay. So it's been great for a number of reasons, but it's been kind of brutal for other reasons. So in the past, if there was something that needed to get fixed, right, I could just hop on and push a fix to live directly, right? And it's no big deal, no issue, no nothing. The pipeline that we have set up now is a correct pipeline to where I am PRing changes to a staging branch. Those changes get tested and then everything comes to live, right? Like that's the real way to do it. That's the correct way to do it. But the problem is that it's extended the time it takes to get fixes to live. And it's kind of put a damper on how I can personally intervene and change things in a timely manner. So it's kind of tough, right? And then the other part of it is like, okay, well, we have that fixed on test, but it's difficult to take a single fix from test and apply it to live. So like we want to get everything working on test, and then there's a massive update to live. But everything that gets updated to live is actually working correctly. So it's a bit of a trade-off, right? But just to give you a little, background info on what's been going on, and we made that decision because we want you guys to have a good experience that doesn't include bugs from things that anyone could have found had it been tested, for more than 20 minutes. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's also important. I see 420 We Blaze It. It's more agile focused, but that means you need more frequent testers. It's a little more in depth than that too. So you got to remember that there's a large facet of different players, and different players play differently. So it's hard to you'd have to have like 200 testers who all have these,
royal devotee.
Sort of unique perspectives. Thank you for the follow there, Nova. So you'd have to have all these people who play very different styles with very different builds. And in a game that has 560 different class combinations, in my opinion, I think it would be, and please stop me or correct me, Aporia, if I misspeak here, but it's almost crazy to expect that they could think of every possible angle with 560 class combinations, trying to balance and fix skills for all of those combinations. It's a little like that is daunting for, Daybreak. That's daunting for Blizzard. That's daunting. Like, I don't know of a company that exists currently with hundreds of staff that could balance or fix all of those issues, let alone a much smaller base here. I don't think that's the point. It's not about classes and stuff. It's more like the broken buffs, XP bonuses, and other things you've been pointing. So, right. But again, so when an aspect of something is tested, so we went over the XP stuff the other day, Aporia. And so like the aspect of what was tested at face value, right? Not in this circumstance or that circumstance or these other circumstances. And so, and that's one thing that needs to be tested amongst many things that need to be tested. And so, go ahead, Aporia. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You were spot on, right? So even with XP, right? So that should be, in my mind, that should be a straightforward thing, right? Like, okay, that's a straightforward thing, but it's not, because there's multiple SPAs that affect XP. Those SPAs don't all affect regular XP the same way as AA XP. And each of those don't affect people who have veterancy and don't have veterancy and have a world buff but don't have a equipped item but have the individual buff plus the world buff. Like the permutations get kind of unwieldy really quick, because then you also have to factor in Zem, mob level difference, individual XP modifiers on individual mobs. Like, it gets crazy complicated, crazy quick. And when you think like, okay, well, yeah, we're putting this bonus, we know it works because we tested it, but we tested it on a level 60 getting AA, right? And it wasn't like, okay, well, we tested it on level 60 getting AA, but they have a shared XP buff that actually cancels 10% of it. And oh, by the way, they're in this zone, which for some reason these mobs are giving 25% of the XP that they're supposed to give, but under other circumstances, they're actually giving more XP than they should give. It's just silly.
Yeah, there's too many things. Like, I pulled this little notes thing up. So we actually, this took 3 hours, by the way, just me, like, and this, I think this could have actually been brought a lot further. And so my point of bringing this up isn't to like say, oh, this is where something was done wrong, but like, look at the amount of work that had to be done just to, and I'm sure there are still more dynamics that I personally haven't even thought of or taken into consideration when testing this. And this took me 3 hours to do this one little aspect of testing out, like, okay, the buff works with this, but doesn't work with this combination. Then it works with this. And then I've got to test it out on, okay, so when I kill a light blue, when I kill a dark blue, when I kill a green mob, when I kill an even con mob, when I kill there's so many varieties and variances that it's unfortunately, like, with the amount of resources that are available, that is kind of crazy. Like, it's just, the expectation that all of those things can be covered is it's pretty wild. Like, it's a lot. And not to say that like you guys shouldn't hope to have the best possible experience. It's more around, I can't see every single facet of every single diamond, right? Like there's just too many.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. All right. So let's pop back up here because I feel we skipped around a little bit.
Yep, right here.
Nathaniel, how are you feeling, Aporia? How's life? You know, I appreciate that you asked. I appreciate that you asked. Things are actually going really well. I'm personally, and a lot of people don't know like what I do or like my primary role. So I transitioned out of a role that I was in for 4 years to consulting. I am upper level IT across multiple sectors, primarily higher ed and healthcare. I've, you know, I've done a lot of different roles, and since I have been consulting full time, life has been much better. I have a little more time to live life. I have a little more time to be me, a little more time to focus on THJ. And it's been a really good thing for my family all in all. So life is good, man. Thank you for asking. Second question, what's a combo of classes you think that might be slept on by people, especially with pop looming on the horizon? So this is an interesting thing. I've noticed this. People tend to think the best builds are the builds that they like to play. So for instance, there's like a couple different categories of people that we have, right? So there are some people that will live and die by AoE builds, right? And there's a ton of those. But they will tell you point blank that those are the best builds, period. Because to them, that's what it's about. Then you've got people who will only play classes that have trash skips because in the exact opposite form of blowing everything up, no one wants to, oh, that doesn't drop loot that I can sell for 40K. I'm not killing that. Like, it's very interesting. And they don't want that. And that's cool. That's fine. That's great. Then there are people who just don't want to die. Like, there are people who love the fact that they are unkillable. I love that. Super love that. Then we've got speedrunners who, there are people that are still farming VP and have gotten their speedrun VP build down to a T. And that's what they do, and that's what they love. And these combos are the best because it can run VP in like 2.5 minutes. And it's like, how is that even possible? Because I've been doing it since Kunark. It's like, all right, cool, sweet. And then there are people who only play pets, right? Like, then there are people who only play two-handed classes. It's just, people tend to think the best builds are the ones that, fit their play style. And to be fair, that's the way it should be. Like, I think this build is the best. Like, great, then play that build, do that. But in terms of slept on by people, right? Yeah, pet cuck, amen. So slept on builds. We're starting to see a little more of it, but it's tough because of resists. I really like dot builds, specifically dot builds with druids and enchanters. Right now, I dare say that dot build with enchanter is pumping out some of the most DPS possible if you can get everything to land, which there are builds that you can get everything to land. And now people that are playing like with others, just in a simple duo, if you can focus just on dotting with enchanter, it is doing insane damage. Insane damage. So I foresee that continuing on into pop, especially because you're going to have more things landing. Yeah, I think dot builds and Druid's so good.
They asked if that was because of doppels.
Oh, a big part of it's because of doppels. Yeah, doppels are currently stacking their dots. I don't know if it's going to stay like that. I think it will, though. It's amazing. Because you have to give so much up for it, right? Like, I don't, and this is the other thing too. Like, something being abnormally strong is fine if there's a cost to it, right? Like, if you want to be the best daughter you can be, you're going to be a little squishy. You're not going to be meleeing that much. Like, you're not going to, it's just, you give up a lot to get it. So I love that there are super fun, super cool things that you can do that is just different. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Druid Necro Enchanter.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Dude, it's fun.
It really is, though. It's kind of wild. Actually,
you also get 3 dire charms.
So a little birdie told me that if you have Rogue and or Berserker in your build, and you have no spells on your bar, those doppels might do some interesting stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow. Anyways, moving on. My character only does 10k DPS. My character should do 1 million DPS. Fix, please.
Yes, that is.
I would like you to get out of my DMs.
Yeah, hold on. I've got a good response for that. I think Kata actually had a really good response for that. Just keep casting spells. It'll solve itself.
I love it.
Oh boy.
But I realized that I kind of skipped over the aggro bug. So yeah, I'm gonna raise that to Kata tonight because I've escalated a lot of issues, but that's one that I don't actually know the status of. So I'm gonna check.
Yeah, I marked it too. So if you want after this, I can shoot you a copy of this.
Please do. Please do.
So this one, I actually know what they're talking about. So this is Fiat Morta's question. Box of Void and mana batteries staying disabled. So there is an active bug report. I actually submitted a bug report myself about this. And sort of my bug report was not only, so the rumor was that basically the Box of the Void, which is the Plane of Sky quest item recharger. You would buy a mana battery and the box from an NPC in Plane of Sky, which you would then put the item in and it would recharge the item. And there was a rumor that in beta or alpha or some early context of the game, people were essentially utilizing the cleric item, which has a clicky complete heal. And they were essentially buying, let's say 50 boxes and 50 mana batteries and just like blowing all the charges off the item and then recharging it really quickly, blowing all the charges off the item, and mix, match, rinse, repeat, however you want to do it. And so the box of the Void was essentially disabled or made inert in response to that. And so at the point of time when I submitted this, I was unsure of this, of whether it was intended or whether or not that was just a rumor or, some random person came up with a story one day and had this. So both Morta and I submitted a bug on this, and it was sort of confirmed that it was an issue. The question is whether or not maybe the box could be made lore or something, and so the box would still function because those quests are a nightmare to do, and so having to redo the quest for the item every single time that you needed to recharge the item, things like a shaman feign death ring with 2 charges, might not take you a week to do that quest.
So I will openly admit that I have not looked at that. two things off the top of my head is, of course, like recharging items would be cool. However, there are a lot of items that if you could recharge easily would immediately become pretty broken. And if we could limit explicitly which items could be recharged, I would be open to that. But I'll be honest, it's not high on my table because it introduces balance complexities that I don't really have the throughput to deal with right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against it. I'm very cognizant of the fact that anytime I do something like this, it has unforeseen consequences.
Yeah. I'm just going to clarify because chat will clarify later. The box of the void only recharges very specifically the plane of sky items. So, there is that. But what you're getting at is that this creates alternative dynamics and consequences that may not be easily perceived at its initial stage. And therefore, by changing that, it could open up exploits and bigger problems down the road that are unforeseen. And while we're putting energy into fixing more important and more pressing things, this isn't really the greatest use of those resources. Fair?
Super fair. Super green. Yes. As a pseudo new player, I'm thoroughly enjoying the server Aporia. Questions. My only frown is having such a great Valentine's Day event. Thank you. With all these XP boosts, thank you. With the server, Errolsy buff, necklace buff, etc. Not seeing any gains from what we were getting before. So this came up again, and it's really interesting to me because I play, right? Like I'm in game playing, and the amount of XP that I'm getting is pretty wild. And so I know we have the rest of the stacking fixed on tests. So I'll say there are more changes coming. However, the tests were done explicitly on AA. Because you level so fast as it is. Like, I like that new players can catch up, but the degree that they can catch up is pretty wild. Like, I think if it were much faster than what it is, it would be beyond trivial. So I want to see where the changes on tests land when they come live. But yeah, we tested all these XP bonuses on AA and in certain conditions. Like, because, how do I put this? It's not a flat return, right? Like nothing, and that's what's complicated about it. It's like 50% doesn't actually mean 50%. It means like 50% increase on the bonus that you would get. And
additive, not multiplicative. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wish it were like that. I'm pretty sure Kata described it as geometric algebra. I don't know. All I know is that there are fixes that exist on tests that are coming to you soon. But also, that being said, as a new player, I can promise you the amount of XP you're getting is wonderful. So enjoy what's out there while it's out there, because if this doesn't feel good, when these go away, it's going to feel worse. So just have fun while you can, yeah? All right. What's next?
McExit. Is the intent for solo self-found and hardcore to be on the same server as all the other characters?
Yes, and we actually have done that successfully.
Oh.
Proof of concept was Retribution Season 1. We had solo self-found working perfectly on Ret, and it took a lot of testing, a lot of feedback. We basically have it ready. We just have to make some adjustments because we made everything account bound here, or rather account wide when it comes to flagging and things like that. So we've got some things that we need to change. But yeah, everyone is going to be on the same server. We discussed starting a new server explicitly for this, but that's not what we want to do. We want everyone to be together. And even though you might not be able to trade with someone or like fight something with them, the fact that you get to see them and interact with them in chat, and the world just seems more vibrant with more people. So we don't really want to, take away from that if we can avoid it.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. I've also explained, I haven't given them an amount, but I was basically like, you guys definitely should be aware that running a server is not a cheap experience and a cheap process, and that to fire up a unique server just for this gameplay style would probably exceed the level of interest and the length of interest that those game modes might provide, not to mention being separated from the rest of the population.
Yeah. The only time we've considered, so no, maybe I'll say that for another time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things that we've worked on that we have separated, possible for future releases, possible for something else, but there's a lot we can do. We're learning, right? And every time we learn something, we try to play with something. And right now, our main focus is keeping the hero's journey as healthy and as long lasting as possible. So we're not going to do anything to split the player base anytime soon. All right. Seasons would be so fun too, where we have to start over every few months, progress forward with some kind of leaderboard mechanic. I think this is something once more expansions are out. Yeah, so it's not something that's off the table. We've done seasons successfully on the same server. You can literally have seasonal characters mixing with non-seasonal characters as long as you segregate them correctly with different mechanics, and we did that. So a seasonal thing is something that we've considered, but we don't want to do anything like that until we are literally out of content. So we're gonna do our best to not lean on that too early, unless and this is just being fully transparent. But like, if something were to happen in the real lives of either Kata or myself, and we're not able to keep up with, the demand of what the server is and what the people need, we might launch something like that to kind of give ourselves a little breathing room. Like, hey guys, here's a fun new thing, have a few months of fun with this type of a thing. Like, we always want people to have something to do here. So I could see seasons being one of those things, but for the time being, we don't foresee that being a necessity, right? Like we're November, December, January, February. We're almost 4 months into this, and we literally broke an all-time high last weekend. So we don't want to necessarily change the game right now.
Yeah, and the direction keeps going up, arguably, knock on wood. But yeah, absolutely. People are coming here for the experience that's being provided, not like fundamentally changing the foundation of it, right?
Exactly. Could we get Tim to affect Beastlord pets? For the love of God, please. That's funny. Oh, hey, Sneaky. It's been a while, homie. Yeah, so we actually talked about this, and apparently it's more complicated than you would think. And that's about where we left that. It's on the board, but it's way down on the board.
I was in a Discord channel with Kata when someone else asked him something similar. And his answer was basically, it's important to recognize that pets are like their own entity. It's not like it looks like a skeleton, and it, for all intents and purposes, is a skeleton, but it's not actually a skeleton. It's its own thing. Like, it has its own rules and stuff. This was back when, remember when they changed the Shadow Knight pets, and they separated the Shadow Knight pets from the Necro pets? And that had to do with the fact that like there were first of all, the synchro satchels were part of it, and then the other thing that was a part of it was the mechanism in which they were receiving pet focus items. And so it's like its a whole nother animal beast creature than like the normal NPCs or other things. It was pretty wild to hear him talk about it. So I will say that there's a lot of that stuff.
Hey, Broken.
Mm-hmm.
So while you were talking, there was something up on the screen, and it looked like people were going into something and fighting stuff and getting loot. What is that?
Oh, my Tangia dungeon. Yeah. Here, so check it out. Guys, somebody pop a Tangia dungeon for me. There you go. So if you type !join right now, basically what happens is players or viewers can join in on this little experience here. You can see your little character is naked because you ain't got no gear. And then you can see some of these other guys have all kinds of like high-end gear. And so you go in and you watch the little chat window up there in the corner, and it's going to say that McExit defeated I think an orc, a troll, Eistern found a dead end. Somebody was killed by a goblin. Somebody descended a floor. Aporia defeated an orc. There you go. So you get some experience. You found a guard room and some leftover cake. Congratulations. Enjoy your cake. And so basically what it is, it's a mini game in which you essentially progress and collect XP. You level up, you get gear, and it's just like a little mini game you can play in my stream all day. People are very addicted to it.
Super cool.
Yeah, people are super, super, super addicted to it. And I don't even know. Matter of fact, here, let me look. There's a leaderboard and like a whole thing that's attached to it. And you can compare your characters against everybody else playing it, as well as everybody else who's in my particular stream. So let's see here right now.
Okay. Stretch goal.
Mm-hmm.
We get the back end of that hooked up to a database for EQ Emu. And the things you fight are actual mobs in the game, and you fight it with your actual character, and we can all dungeon dive together like that.
Oh my God. That would be awesome. Like, yeah, use the back end and then attach. So funny story that you bring that up, actually. What if I told you that it actually has a mechanic built into it to allow you to change the assets to other things? So if you wanted to theoretically do like short sword of Yakesha or a shiny brass helmet or like something like that, you could enter that into the game and people could find it. Those things do exist.
That is super cool. Super cool. Well, yeah, toss that in your notes. Toss it in your notes. So cool.
Raina asked, and she said, I'm sure this has asked before, but what are the least played combos? Would be curious to try some out. I know in the past you guys have been resistant to answer that, or even maybe unable to answer that.
Yeah, there's a query for that. I don't think I have it saved. Toss that one on there too, because I think Kata's been talking about wanting to get that out to people. Oh, we got ads.
We do. Here we go. Ooh, Firefly. Hey, Aporia, no questions. I just want to say thank you for taking time to sit in the stream and answer these questions. Love your activity in the community. Oh.
Firefly. Oh, Firefly Exotica. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh, we do things weird here.
Don't hate that at all. Thanks, man. or person. I appreciate that. Truly.
They're all dudes here.
Every time I make that assumption.
No. When I say they're all dudes, I mean like even if they're girls, they're dudes.
Oh, sweet. All right, dudes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
I like that a lot. Dudes it is.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I'm a dude, she's a dude. We're all dudes.
We're all dudes, yeah. How far did I play into live EQ? It's a good question. So initially, I played until pop and then quit. Then I came back, and I believe it was when they just launched heroic characters.
Oh God.
Was super turned off and left. And then I came back again when Reign of Fear launched. Got really into it. I forgot what the name of the guild was, but they were the #1 guild on Vox, I think, at the time. And I got to do all the server firsts on Vox for Reign of Fear. And then I did a little bit of the subsequent expansion, but it just didn't hit the same way that Reign of Fear did. So I Reign of Fear is the furthest that I got. And then I went back again later, and every time I go back, like, I just can't get into it, because you have to, it's one of those things, right? Like, okay, my character was raid geared, right? And like basically best in slot. If I want upgrades from the next expansion, I have to do, like raid encounters to get upgrades. And it's not THJ, so I can't do that by myself. So I need to find a guild of 50 plus people if I want upgrades. And that just feels bad to me. Hence THJ.
There you go. We are back from ads too, by the way.
Yay.
We have an ongoing joke that I'm going to log this build in because you guys are going to nerf it. So I'm just going to sit here on this build for a little bit here. What do we wish pet's dead?
It's probably a good idea.
I've
said it before, but I don't know if you guys hear it enough. I truly do appreciate everything you guys do and sacrificing time for the server. You're welcome. Like, this started as a selfish venture because I wanted to play EQ without having to get 49 other people together. But it's turned into something amazing, and we will continue to do this for as long as humanly possible. We absolutely love that you guys love this.
I do want to tell you something. So we know how much you love the pet cuck term. So this is the pet cluck build.
What?
It's my clucker, my pet clucker. We do it with chickens.
Well, I don't even know.
You're welcome. Anyway,
wow. Where's your title?
Which title?
What do you think?
My bird title?
It's your bird title.
Oh God. Yeah, you're probably right. I'll have to go do that.
How do you do pet cluck without the bird title?
I don't know. You're right. Man, birds are real. Blood-eyed, first off, awesome job on the server, having a blast, but got a couple of questions. When building these encounters, are they being built for solo play, duo, or maybe even full group? That's the first part of their question. And then the second part of their question is, when searching on the bazaar, get better trying to find an AUG. If you don't know what it is, pretty difficult. Or when you list something by armor class, for instance, and sort high to low, it isn't always correct. So that would be a bug. I can answer that one. if you're having that experience, you probably need to report that as a bug and definitely detail everything that you're doing up to it not behaving like it should. But I'll let you go ahead, Aporia.
Yeah, no. I actually just got a message from Kata. He would like to join.
Oh, yeah. Come on in, baby.
Just want to pop in.
No, Cat is not allowed. I only agreed to Aporia.
This is not what we agreed.
Although, all right, just putting this out in the ether, and you're probably going to shoot me immediately for putting this out in the ether. So what we do is we do counter swapping weeks where you're in my stream and Kata's in V's stream. And then next week, Kata's in my stream and you're in V's stream. And we try to ask you the most like specific, crazy questions to get the two of you to answer the same question differently at the same time.
This is how divorces start.
Okay. So back to that question was, first off, awesome job on the server, having a blast, but got a couple of questions. When building these encounters, are they being built for solo play, duo, or maybe even full group?
Sure. So let's start with the core game, right? Players have been balanced around the idea that they can solo progression mobs. The fact that they can duo capstone content and that they may need to find additional friends for custom content. So for Saru, for instance, we would assume most people need at least 2 people to do Saru. There's obviously a lot of things that affect that, right? Like no 2 players are the same. Even with the same build, people play the same build differently. And it's kind of crazy, right? Like I could watch one person with an identical build have a completely different cap on what they can do than another person. And the way in which they choose to play it, it's wild to me to see that, right? So, but in general, right? Solo, all prog, duo, capstone content, so final fights. So, and this would be Vextal, right? And 2+ for any custom content. And in terms of the actual custom content, that's what it's going to be built in mind, right? Like the hardcore of the hardcore are going to have difficulty soloing it, if at all. Duoing it, if you're both really solid, probably. And you might have to get creative, especially with the events that we have coming up. You may have to have different people doing different things at the same time, and it might take a little bit of coordination. And that's just a part of it.
So just to clarify for people there, like, so potentially there are going to be events in the game which are going to require multiple people to take tasks and do things at one single time. So there is going to be content which the focus is around more than one player, potentially more than 2 players in those circumstances.
So expect to lose my SSF HC character to these events. Got it. Well, I mean, here's the thing. If you choose to play a solo self-found hardcore character, I would assume you're not going to just happenstance your way through 60 levels and fall face first into a custom boss, right? So I would hope that you know what you're doing before you go in. And if you don't, the way that we're doing solo self-found hardcore, if you die on hardcore, you just get removed from all the leaderboards, all the competitions, all the extra stuff, and you become a regular solo self-found character.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah, you're not going to die. You're going to just become solo self-found.
Okay. So that's actually really interesting. So, because that's more of the style, like PoE or something like that follows, where if you die, you're no longer like a hardcore character, you're just a standard character. That's really cool. And yeah, I would say, like, for instance, if you made a hardcore character and you were like right now in today's, and you ran in and you were like, I'm going to 4/4 Saru, and you died, I wouldn't really put that on the server or the server admins or the fight not being tailored to you. I would question where your brain was at. That's me. Yeah. That's not Aporia saying that. That's me saying, you know, use some more, you know, critical thinking skills there, like when you engage certain things.
Does my mic still have COVID?
Yes, you sound 100 times better, and now I actually need to turn you up. All right, talk again for me, Kata.
Hello.
A little bit more.
More. A little bit more.
There we go. Can you guys hear him okay?
He's a little muffled, but I think they can hear.
Okay.
I just physically restrained myself from making a "that's what she said" joke.
You can do that here. We do far worse. I've eaten bananas on stream in a very sexual manner.
674 hours. Oh.
Only.
Yeah, so SSF leaderboards, hardcore leaderboards, absolutely. We want leaderboards. That's the primary reason. That's the primary reason that anyone wants to do that stuff is gloating rights, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
111 days.
What are you talking about, Kevin?
The Valentine's Day XP boss. That's 111 days.
Oh, it's different. It's different based on the character you log into. So if you log into a character that was present when certain things were handed in, it may be higher than another character that wasn't logged in. However, that being said,
don't worry about that. What really matters is the timer on the server side, which is what's displayed.
So you go like that.
Something. Remember to put caps on them. Something.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to put a cap on that because that's a lot.
What do you mean? It's only the next year. That's what they're shooting for. They're trying to make it so that there's people who are actively. I'm detecting your fun, guys, but there are a group of people who are actively trying to push that number as high as humanly possible.
I'm gonna put an asymptotic cap on it, I guess.
Okay, so we're gonna play a challenge, all right, for everyone that's listening. Every time Kata says a word that you don't know what it means, you have to drink. Let's not do that.
Sorry, if you got through high school algebra and you don't know what asymptotic means, there's a problem. You weren't paying attention.
Kata, I don't know what that word means.
I gotta get someone. Yeah, should we give people enough time to go maybe purchase a keg of liquor or?
Yeah, I was gonna say no because someone's gonna literally die if he starts talking.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm at least I'm not bust out ones like item potent or anything.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So we're already getting our swerve on. That's nice.
The next question was, have you guys ever thought about increasing the .AA or making, and they also recommended that you could do something like making the mana battery for the box of the void, the Plane of Sky items. You could maybe make it a plat sync so it cost like 10 or 20K, so people would have to pay out the nose in order to do it.
If it came back, it would definitely be a plat sync for sure.
Why is it gone?
Because people have infinite complete heals.
Yeah. So my understanding, or what I've been told by the community, is that essentially people were taking the cleric quest item, which can cast complete heal. It's got 5 charges, and they were going and getting like 100 boxes and 100 mana batteries, and they were just using all of the complete heals and then putting it back in the box and recharging it like in the middle of the fight, and then doing this again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And so it was invalidating most content because it just never would stop. So people were recommending making the box lore so you could only carry 1 box, or also making the mana batteries themselves plat sinks. So have you thought about increasing dot AAs or AAs around some of the things that people are perceiving as maybe being a little underpowered?
So yeah, so the only thing that I would do to dots, honestly, and we've talked about this before, is they should probably get the same treatment that DD's got, to where if the cast time is over 3, it gets set to 3. That's probably correct.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Pretty cut and dry there. Third question: could we get Ralos Axe as a glamour, or say Fennon's Mace Hammer thing as a glamour? Pretty please. This is from Nathaniel.
So I'm excited to talk about this one. So we have a new person on the team. He's been around EQEMU for a very long time by the name of Tack. Tack is officially on the team to create custom glamour stones for THJ. And I'm not going to spoil all of them, but like doing something cool, like taking the Worm Slayer, and instead of it being like a 2D thing, having it be like all 4-pronged and having the handle glow red and shine blue off the tips. Like, he's doing stuff like that. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is get him to kind of reinvent some iconic items, right? Add some really cool stuff to him, and then also create our own custom items. So if there are items that are on a mob that you want to see as a glamour stone, we should probably open up a like a little request thing and kind of go through them.
Ooh, I like that. Like just well, I don't know if one of the things that I hate about the current quote unquote forum system in Discord is it is a goddamn nightmare to find things sometimes. And
I wonder if we need like an actual forum.
I mean, maybe that's not a terrible idea, my humble opinion. But if you had something like that where you could actually have people who could submit like these different things and it was easier to search, I also think that might solve some of your problem by like duplicate bug reports or duplicate posts on various different things. Because, man, I'll tell you, the other day I was trying to find the forum on Shadow Knight Rogue Shamans, and when I searched it, it actually told me there were absolutely no threads for Shadow Knight Rogue Shaman. Like, you know how you could just select the class? It told me there were none. And I was like, what? And I cleared the filter, tried it again, none. And I was like, what? I know there's one. I was just looking at it.
So unfortunately, there's only so much we can do to Discord itself, right? But one of the things that we have been, I mean, we have taken great care, and a huge shout out to Drake and Valorfell and everyone involved on this. But basically, the best way we have to deal with the massive amount of information that we have is just getting more eyes on it that can interpret and escalate and combine. And honestly, they're doing a great job. It's just, we're never going to get to a point where it works exactly the way that we want it to. But having those people there, like actually interacting, asking follow-up questions, combining threads, closing threads, and then the most important thing, escalating it to us, right? Like that's a big change that's happened, is that we don't spend all of our time reading through bug reports anymore. Do some fall through the cracks because of that? Yes, but way more have gotten addressed because we can actually spend time addressing bugs instead of figuring out what the fuck the bug actually is.
Yep. Makes sense. Would the solo self-found and hardcore modes include random classes? Icestern.
You could. I mean, that's up to you. The problem with that it's kind of okay. It's kind of gimmicky, right? Because you could just like, oh, well, this is a shitty combo. I'm going to delete it and make a new one, right? Like, no, some people are going to be like, oh, I random this and look what I did and it's great. Other people are going to sit there fishing for a decent combo and then play like, this was a randomized character. Like, okay, man, I can see the 300 deleted characters on your account.
We all know that D&D guy who, you know, rolls his stats until he gets fucking perfect rolls, right? Like,
yeah. No, I rolled them once. It's all natural. Okay. All right.
yeah. All right, Aporia, what crazy deep recess of your mind thought it would be a good idea to come talk with Broken?
Well, yeah, fair question. But so what spawned this is that so number one, Broken loves you guys, and he was sharing with me some feedback that he had gotten in chat, and it hit me kind of sideways. It shouldn't have, but it did. And it made me realize that there is a section of the player base that uses Twitch as its primary mode of giving feedback and talking about bugs and talking about in-game things. And I realized that it was a genuine weak point on, and I will take this on myself because I'm everywhere else, right? Like I'm looking at all the YouTube videos. I'm reading all the posts. I'm in all the forums, you know. But I'm not always on Twitch. Like I can't be. And talking with Broken, being like, hey man, like there's got to be something I can do. Because if people are feeling like their voice isn't being heard when my DMs are open and I'm responding to every ping that I get, that just means that I need to be where these discussions are happening. So the whole goal of this, guys, is that once a week, I'll be dedicating at least an hour of my time, and maybe Kata if he wants to get on it too. But it's important for me that I remain accessible. And there are people who felt that I was inaccessible. And so I wanted to devote time to changing that. And that is the genuine reason why I'm here.
I'm allowed to talk to people?
I mean, we tried to stop you, but you showed up any. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's fair. I was talking to myself, not realizing I was on push to talk. There was a question about the concept of solo self-hound random fishing. Could just add a cooldown to how quickly you can request random characters.
Ooh, that's something. I mean, I'll mark that down.
I'll probably do that actually. No, I think about it. If how quickly you can request random hardcore characters.
That makes sense. Yeah, and some people might like that, but for me, like, I don't know. Like it's just
it's
so,
sure. Like
yeah.
Let's not pretend it's not a gimmick, but it's a gimmick. But it's a fun.
Yeah. I don't need to like all the gimmicks. Someone does, not me.
Aporia, I will be playing the fuck out of that gimmick. Like,
there you have it.
I do it now. We random characters. I have a character. Matter of fact, I have a character named Mayonnaise, which is the biggest train wreck character that my chat could come up with. And we've been doing a challenge mode, which has been crazy. I don't have any spells to cast. I am a warrior berserker rogue. And I don't know if you've seen this. I'll actually log over to it really quick. Sorry, Kata. But I'll show it to you in a second here. But that's like one of the fun things. And I know there's a couple other of us, especially like content creators, because that stuff is basically meme godland. When you random out a weird character and you have 100 people, 180 people watching you, you roll it out there, they hold you accountable to playing that god awful whatever the heck you just got that you know is going to die after it attacks the first thing in in solo self-found. Oh wait, wrong account.
There's a question up here that I really do want to address. It's a hard question, but I'm gonna address it.
Okay.
Because we would do things a little differently if we were to do it again, but the way that it was done was intentional. So the question is, what was the design around sympathetic items Why does it only impact spell users' healers? Were melee characters broken so badly that caster needed this large buff to catch up? The short answer was yes. They did. The long answer of why it's not given to melee characters. Okay, so let's really think this through, right? Because I've had this discussion several times now, and I feel like it's an important one. So when people talk about melee characters, right? Like how many classes are there? 16, right?
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep, 16.
So there's 16 classes. Of those 16 classes, there are 3 melee only characters. Okay? 3. Those 3 characters are very good at what they do and some of the most picked classes. Okay? Melee never needed a boost by itself because it was never really the primary thing that it did. So what I mean is, aside from Monk and Berserker, right? Like those are the two that when you pick them, that was your melee damage. Like you're only doing melee damage, right? Okay. Yes, they needed a little love, and so we gave them a little love, right? So Zerker shits out DPS. Monk fits into almost every build and gives a ton of DPS. If they were to get any stronger, it would feel incorrect, right? So you can think about how much Sympathetic Strike adds to caster damage, and then realize that even then it's still on par, right? So honestly, it's Kata. Kata. Honestly, Throwstone getting spell damage still makes me want to Sudoku. Yes, well, very good. But yeah, so I don't know like how much this person has played on this server, but I can tell you that having Sympathetic Strike is necessary for class balance. Would we do it differently if we were to like launch today? Yes, but not too much differently. I think the only thing that we would do is probably have the amount that spell damage can affect something be based on the base spell that you cast. That's probably something we would do differently. However,
Totally
everyone is having so much fun, and everyone loves what we have right now. We cannot change a core function like that now, especially because we've bounced around these stacks, right? So to answer your question, yes, it was needed.
Yeah, so when you mix all the melees together, do you see how many AAs you get?
Is it more than 3?
It's what is it? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18.
Well, that's archetype though. There's not that many archetype for most people.
Yeah, there's a lot over here, but there's quite a few. This is pretty wild, but
there's maybe 12 more.
This isn't wrong.
When we were in alpha for this, the initial idea was that we wanted to make it so that when you really double down on like an archetype or a theme on your class, you got to stack them. So you got all the AAs for every class, even if they were shared, then you got 2 instances of it or whatnot. But we figured out really quickly in alpha that this was not something that could happen.
Yeah.
The scaling got off the chain so fast, and the UX was terrible.
Where is it?
If you think like spell crit stuff is like a dominant strategy now, imagine what it's like when you could have like, what was it?
3 tiers of it.
Yeah, when you had 3 classes worth of spell crit and like you always crit every single spell forever with 20x spell damage all the time. It was ridiculous.
Add bloodlust and everything just vaporizes. Yeah.
It was too much. So I like the design we've landed on as far as AAs go, for the most part.
I actually really think you've done really well with it. I am always impressed by how clean it is. I mean, like, obviously, you had to go through and overhaul so many of these to make them like accurate and work the way that you intended. But
Um, you know that meme with Homer Simpson where like he's all buff and everything, and then you look behind him and it's like all
like
rubber
clipped.
banded together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's like that.
Yep.
It's exactly like that.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah.
That's not a bad analogy.
Oh, okay. So
What the dog doing?
Myopis asked about events like the Wrath Council in Plane of Earth, needing multiple people. So the way pop progression is not the same thing as server progression. Um, they will align with one another, but there's going to be a specific point in pop progression you need to get to in order to get the gates when gates unlocks. But that's not going to be all the way to Plane of Time. And
Ooh.
it's probably also not going to include Wrath Council. So you're not going to need to do Wrath Council with solo, because our criteria here is that most people should be able to solo the progression. After post progression, many people may need to have more than one person, kind of thing. So it's fine. Gates is really when it starts to get kind of interesting there, because there's some stuff in relatively early in Gates that like literally you can't do solo. The Ikens raids, I think, is when it first shows up.
Yep.
And I have no idea what we're going to do there.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Which is one of the reasons why we're pausing with pop to sort of catch our breath a little bit, because there's a lot of stuff in Gates and beyond that's just sort of like, what are we going to do here?
I think it's big. There's a lot there too. I mean, there's a lot of different projects and like side things that you guys have talked about wanting to do at around pop and like quote unquote the end of pop. And I think that leaving that open ended is great. Like a lot of people are looking forward to that expansion as a whole. I think that a lot of people are looking forward to the side projects and to some extent putting time and effort into that instead of focusing on, what the next expansion is going to be pretty big, pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just take the opportunity to reiterate, like we've been on this fairly frenetic pace of pushing out new content. That was not because this is a timeline server where like this is doing like a TLP where you go through the progression of the content and then the server's done. That was to give us a manageable scope and domain of bugs to deal with at any one time. Not because that was the intention of this is the content you're supposed to be playing with right now. The server's around as long as anyone wants to play on it, which hopefully is a very long time. And those people get to do their own personal progressions. They get to play around with the various systems and gameplay modes that we build. Yeah.
Yeah. So more digestible process for you to deal with the issues that arise as opposed to having to deal with it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's a really good way of putting it.
King Catatonic said, "Are we going to see any increase in base stats apart from levels, or any plans on making 100 spent AAs on base stat increases in the future, similar to the mystical attuning?"
Nope.
You'll see other AA dumps, but it's most likely not going to directly impact player power in such a direct way.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't even think the mystical attuning really impacts player power that much after the first couple of them. We sort of had. I don't think we ever really got around to like formalizing this, but I really like this sort of design concept where you have 100 AA buys for things that don't really matter, but they're nice to haves, or quality of life, or quality of life's not even the right term. Just like extra stuff that doesn't increase your power. That just it's just a thing. So you have something you can spend an AA on if you choose to.
That's cool.
But you're not like, you don't feel compelled to grind that out at level 30 or whatever, because it doesn't matter that much. Yeah, but Prestige AAs has kind of been the label I've assigned to them in my head.
Can I piggyback on that a little bit? Has it come up, or has it been a thought, or was it a thought when you were originally planning the mystical attuning thing to allow people to exceed the 100 AA cap?
Yeah, I know there's a bug right now where you can exceed the 100 AA cap because there's like a greater than, or there's an
Right.
equals where there could be a greater than or equals check.
It-
Expect that to get fixed at some point, and probably all of those extra AAs to poof. So
Oof.
just be aware of that.
Okay. That's a really good input. So for all those of you who are AA refunding and swapping your classes so that you have more AAs than 100 in your bank, and as an effort to gather more AAs, stop doing that. It's going to hurt you. You'll be sad.
Make a note for me, Broken,
Mhm.
that we need to include that in an announcement before it goes away. Because Kata is not the one that's going to be getting the messages.
But I will be the one collecting the tears.
Oh, yes. Yeah. A refunding to exploit.
No, so the 100 AA is specifically chosen. The 100 AA cost for those is specifically chosen to be as annoying as possible.
Oh, okay. Because you're basically yeah.
It's
Never mind. I'm not going to repeat what I'm thinking.
It's literally meant to be that you have to be capped on AA in order to buy it.
Yeah.
I realize that some people are find this inconvenient because they get to waste like small fractions of a pull, or whatever. But I don't. It's fine. Like that's fine. I could have made them cost 101. That would have been hilarious.
All
Oh,
right.
Jesus. Yeah, that's a good one. We have one last queued question. If you want to do that before you.
Yeah. Hit me.
Is Plane of Knowledge going to be accessible right away as a main city, or is it going to be locked behind the progression?
If you have pop unlocked, you will be able to zone into Plane of Knowledge. Yes. One thing that I would like to do, or actually, I think we already have it in there. When you go to the bazaar from Planes of Power, from Plane of Knowledge, you will end up in the correct bazaar. And I also think because of that, we maybe need to find a spot to zone into POK from this bazaar.
That works great. What's the problem?
Okay, so if you're in a group, okay, so if me and one other person, or me, like last night we did this where me and 3 other people did Saru 4-4.
Oh yeah, I see what the problem would be.
And
okay. I'll fix that next patch. I tried to do a thing and then okay, so medium amount of context. This is there is a unintended consequence of being able to put your pet in a state where it can't be aggroed, which is what turning Taunt off does. Which is that if no other countermeasure is taken, then you can generate some really gnarly exploits by like using feign death or going invis or whatever, and like sending your pet at something, and then the mob just ignores your pet because it's unable to aggro it. So your pet can just kill anything, risk free. This is a problem, obviously. So the countermeasure here is that instead of your pet getting aggro under those circumstances, you get some aggro. But this causes a problem where you get way more aggro than you possibly know what to do with, because NPC aggro works differently than player aggro. So at some point I changed that. At some point, like in beta, I changed it so it gave you like 1 point of aggro, which is just enough to put you on the hate list, so the mob aggroes you, but not enough to actually do anything about it. Not enough to really change your positioning in the aggro scale. So with the latest revision to something, I don't know why I touched this again, but I undid that because I'm like, oh, here's a cleaner way of doing this. Why is that just what? That makes no sense. Um, yeah, yeah. So I'll fix that. It'll be next release.
No, but that's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought that it was the issue that it actually is, but that's wild. That makes total sense. Holy Christ.
So, basically now, if you have a pet on taunt, or if you have a pet that's off taunt, it evenly divides the aggro that pet would generate between all your pets that have taunt on and you. So if you have one pet with taunt on and you get half the aggro, and the pet with taunt on gets half the aggro.
That's wild.
So what my suggestion would be, if you're running into aggro problems in a group, is just turn taunt on all of your pets.
Okay.
That will cause the aggro to not get distributed to you at all.
It'll normalize it. But the problem is when you actually have like a tank, for instance, in 404 Saru, where maybe your pet isn't geared out to tank, your tank might, or your pet might eat dirt. But it's better in the temporary.
The mechanic works. I think you might have a better chance of working around it until it's fixed, but that's how the mechanic works.
Yep.
How the intent of the mechanic is going to work is that you're going to get 1 point of aggro, and then your pets with taunt on are going to get all the rest of it. And this was to fix the issue of inconsistencies in terms of which of your pets was tanking when you have a pet only tank situation.
Right. I will say the new taunt changes that you guys did to pets is amazing. Like the pet is actually responsive and feels a lot better than it did.
Honestly, that's what influenced or provoked the change that we're talking about. The main thing the mechanic that's going on with pets right now is that makes the taunt feel good. Is I had something that was in since alpha, but apparently just never worked right. Where when your pet taunts, if you have things that are attacking its owner, it will also taunt those if they're inside its melee range.
Whoa. So, I mean, that basically means like a lot of it wasn't. That would explain the like inconsistent behavior that you're running into.
Yep.
That makes total sense. All right.
I don't know what the can of worms Aporia is talking about is. What's wrong with Warrior Taunt?
What? There's nothing wrong. Join.
Exclamation point join.
Multi-kill.
Myopus, DM me on Discord. Tell me what this problem is.
Listen, Kata, look at my screen. Not the stream, the Discord screen.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay, so if you open up Discord and you click look at our chat, see how it says I'm live?
Tiny. Okay, gotcha. I see it.
Yeah, you can click that and open it up big.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, that's actually pretty easy to fix, Aporia. We just add a point of damage to him. Same thing we did with Paladin stuns.
Oh, so they would trigger. Oh.
That's not necessarily what they were talking about. Do you mean add a single point of damage to all?
Yeah, so he's talking about procs for things like Darkblade or Warlord or Blood Frenzy, like warrior weapons that have aggro procs on them that are basically not super useful on the server. If we just added a point of damage to those effects, like Enraging Blower, I think is what it's called, for the most part.
Well, yes, but those aren't spells either, so they wouldn't technically trigger.
They wouldn't trigger Simp. They wouldn't trigger Simp. They get spell damage though.
Oh, Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a whole new. Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't think they'd be very good still, but they wouldn't be
Yeah.
just like completely useless.
Worthless. Yeah. Well, some of them have like really ideal, for instance, D-Bow, which is coming out in Pop, has like really, really strong defensive stats. Like it's a really, really good weapon, but you just don't even look at it. I mean, Blood Frenzy in this expansion.
Aggro abilities and stuff are kind of worthless right now because of, man, I don't know how far to go down this rabbit hole.
Myopus. Oh no, never mind. He has Nitro. You can go ahead and.
We have plans. So we've done like a couple of custom encounters and stuff, but I have people coming out of the woodwork wanting to help us like design more custom encounters. Once we get through like DON, that's probably not the end of the custom content, or that's probably not the end of the content. We'll probably like start doing other stuff. I don't know if you noticed, but like we make things here, and I don't know what a future looks like working on this server where it just runs and nothing new gets added. So I would expect the paradigm on aggro things and group focus stuff to change in the future in terms of optional stuff. So yeah. I don't know.
Is there still a plan for
that isn't to say that to be clear, that isn't to say that like the server's not going to be like a solo duo thing. It's just that there's lots of different ways to play around with the concepts that we've built, and playing with a couple of friends is still going to want you to have someone's going to want to tank at some point.
Right. And that's actually happening now. Like there's definitely that kind of thing is occurring. I mean, that's what we were doing last night when we encountered the pet issue. I made it even worse because my pet build has warrior in it, and I actually intentionally avoided all the aggro reducing stuff and intentionally put points in the stuff that causes additional aggro. So it was really bad. But
I fundamentally think that, and I'm going off script here pretty far. Mom's probably going to get mad at me. I think that there's a couple of things about what we built here that is really cool. One of them is being able to go and do stuff on your own time, being able to log in for an hour or two when you have it, or even less, and make like do something that feels like it was useful. I remember back when I played live, one of the worst feelings was when I could log in for an hour and I'd spend that hour running laps in POK because there's nothing I could go do. I was just trying to get the inertia up to like form a group or go do whatever. That said, it's one of the other cool things about playing an MMO and about playing this is going and doing something with your friends. And I'd like us to be able to accommodate both of those things to the greatest extent possible.
I think I can't remember which one of you it was, but I know in a previous stream you guys had mentioned the possibility of like Eldon being sort of a roguelike content, fabled stuff happening around the end of Pop.
So something that we're pretty sold on is making use of the dungeons that exist in a new way. We've talked about it before, but after Solo Self-Found, after Hardcore, I would love to see us do a dungeon finder system similar to World of Warcraft. Huh? Similar to World of Warcraft. Basically where you can go to an NPC and queue up and you get put with some other adventurers and it puts you in a random dungeon. Any dungeon from Little Befallen all the way up to whatever's currently available, every single dungeon zone, and then have a set of win conditions you have to do together. And And when that's done, you get either some currency or a chance at some, special glamour stones, whatever. That is my personal, like, when I look at different potential features, that right there, I'm so stoked for. Level based, so it would scale, right? So you could get any dungeon, right? And it would scale to probably the highest level person in your group. I don't know. We haven't gotten the details down, but the dungeon itself will scale, or you will scale to the dungeon. And I think Kata said that it's easier to scale the dungeon. Yeah. Kata.
Bueller.
The one time I actually want you to talk, Kata. Sick. Yeah.
The
So
troll is real. Oh my god.
he is awful. He does this to me all the time.
Can I just say I don't think there's a clean set of pants in this entire viewership right now?
Oh, Cat just pinged us and said he crashed. He wasn't trolling me.
Kata?
That's amazing.
I'm on my phone now.
Oh, okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, Kata, how much of what I said did you hear?
It sounded like you were talking about the random dungeon finder.
Okay, so I'll just throw this out there one more time so that Kata can kind of weigh in. But basically, I let them know that the idea is that we want every dungeon that is available to be accessible through a WoW-like dungeon finder, where you either hail an NPC or go through a portal or whatever, and you get tossed into a random dungeon, and either the dungeon is scaled to you or you are scaled to the dungeon. And I think you said it was better if we scaled the dungeon to the player, right?
I don't. No, I wasn't trolling you. I don't know which way we'll go. It could be like we could probably even try both approaches. It's good. We'll try both approaches when we start testing and working on it. I don't know which one will actually end up working better. I kind of like the idea about like not knowing whether the dungeon's going to be scaled up or you're going to be scaled down.
Well, that could be kind of cool. But then the second point to that is by completing whatever the win conditions are to the dungeon, you would be granted either some type of special currency or have a chance at some special, glamour stones and items that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's definitely some ideas on this. A lot of this system is still aspirational, but I think we're definitely going to do it. It's just it's a pretty big lift to make it happen.
Yeah, and one of the things that I had said, it's most likely going to come after solo self-found and hardcore.
A lot after.
There you go.
The concept is amazing and excites me beyond belief. I do not have clean pants.
It's honestly, it is definitely the thing that I'm looking forward to most personally.
Loot Legends, we're going to do them weekly. There's a little bit of a disconnect because Variety Void works during the week. And so I reached out to him today. What's going on, Minnie? I reached out to him today and, he's at work and he's still at work when I start streaming. So we kind of like, we're two boats passing in the night sort of deal. And the plan is for these to happen weekly and sort of rotate from my stream to Variety Void stream to my stream to Variety Void stream, and have these kind of things so that your guys' questions can get answered and it could be a greater discussion and things. And you guys can, you can kind of air your stuff and feel comfortable talking and understand that these guys are community based. They want to engage with you. They want your feedback. Like they are building something amazing. But if they do something and they're like, whoa, people hate this thing, like their ears are open to that and they're willing to listen.
all you guys have to do is ping me and I'll join the stream.
Nope.
anytime you want.
Fuck. Oh, okay. You talking about Aporia and I pinging you?
VV.
He was definitely not suggesting players. That's for sure.
He said all you guys have to do is ping me. These viewers will incur wrath. They will go to Discord and they will ping you nonstop.
Yeah, please don't ping him.
Don't ping me unless you have a stream with like 10 people watching to invite me to.
Oh yeah, I can't. I can't recall the last time I only streamed to 10 people. No, I'm just kidding. I do want to throw you guys in front of a little bit of a bus here. And I love you. Please come back to me after I do this.
Send me a DM.
Saru and the legendary or the 4X Saru. Is there any plans around what to do with 4 of 4 and the loot?
What do you mean?
Oh,
what do you mean? It's fixed already.
Is it already fixed?
It's already fixed.
Yeah, it's already fixed.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, that was my fault. I'll dive into the bus on that one. Basically I am running into a situation where there's a large amount of the project's getting large enough that I don't remember exactly how I did a lot of things. And so when I go back and reference or go back and do something that interacts with, let's say the system where loot gets automatically upgraded, and try to make it work a little bit differently for a one-off event, and then it doesn't work exactly right, and I just don't see it because I didn't run enough test cases. Yeah, that's my fault.
Or 20. Well,
why would I document something that I'm the only person who's ever going to touch it, and it's only going to be used by 300 players, my dude?
Only 300, ever, never 3,000 plus.
No, I bet there was a nifty commit message though.
It's probably F back from that system's old enough for it to just be F. Yes.
Yeah, many questions are allowed.
And spread across like 17 commits at least, all of which say F.
Or oops. Yeah. Or this fixes it.
Or fix it. Yeah.
Yep. Anyways, listen, man, thank you so much for having us on. I do want to do this every week. I don't know if it'll be for 2 hours, but I at least get in and, this is what I really want. If anyone comes in here talking about something that they feel like they haven't been heard, I want you to invite them to whatever the next scheduled one is, whether it's on your stream or Variety Void, and let's just talk about it, right? Or they can actually, use any of the other methods that we have. But I want this to be a touch point, right? Like I want to be available, and that's what we're gonna do.
I want to reiterate that. I mean, I hate to plan things out loud in public here, basically, but I am wildly interested in the idea of having these Q&A sessions where we also invite people onto the stream who are players who have questions, rather than I don't know.
It's a good idea. Fundamentally,
I don't know what the logistics
yeah,
on that.
The only problem you run into, and I don't mind saying this in front of all these people, is that all it takes is one person saying the wrong word and I lose everything.
Then let's not do that. Seems good.
So I actually think that it could work, but I do think that there would need to be a bit of a like pre-base, like a little bit of homework, a little bit of housekeeping would need to be done ahead of time in order to cater to that. For instance, like when you watch the news, it is live, but technically it's actually not live. There's like a 2-minute delay on the recording versus when they're displaying things. so that the FCC can go in and like ping things if something were said or done that shouldn't have been done. So, and that's something that I can actually do on my end. So we like logistically, we could do it. It'd just be, we would need to look at how we would want to do it overall.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see how that would be a stopping point.
Also, so here's the thing: if someone is chill enough to come on stream with us to ask a question, they better feel comfortable enough to just ask us the question, right? Like this isn't this. This is for people who don't come on Discord. This is for people who are just chilling on Twitch, right? Like I don't want it to be something that's set up. I don't want it to be something that's like, I just want people to show up and feel like they can do their thing. You know, like that's what I want.
Casual, but you know, purposeful.